Okay, I hope I'm audible to all students who are attending this lecture of Introductory Microeconomics. In this lecture, we intend to solve the assignment on demand and supply concepts. We intend to solve the assignment on demand and supply concepts. Okay, and if you all can recall formally, demand and supply concept is chapter 4 of MANQ. Demand and supply concepts is chapter 4 of MANQ, and we intend to solve the assignment. So let's look at all the questions one by one. Now, students, I am not writing the questions because I assume that students who are attending this lecture already have the assignment in soft copy form with them. So I will be just reading the question and we will be solving it on the screen. You all are requested to silently read it along with me. Okay. So the first question, explain the following statements using the demand and supply diagram. So we are given some statements and we need to explain them using demand and supply diagram. So statement A, when a cold snap hits Florida, price of orange juice rises in the supermarket throughout the country. Okay. So first of all, which commodity are they talking about? They are talking about orange juice. So when we draw a diagram, it is going to be on the x-axis quantity of orange juice, on the y-axis price of orange juice. Okay, I think the information is given in dollars, so we can take it in dollars. Okay, now our demand curve for orange juice is downward sloping. Like any other demand curve, our supply curve is upward sloping. Initial equilibrium E0, E0, initial price, equilibrium price P0, initial equilibrium quantity Q0. Now guys, when a cold snap hits Florida, now when any calamity happens, will the demand shift or will the supply shift? When any natural calamity happens, will you stop demanding orange juice? No. But what will happen to supply? When a cold snap hits Florida, the supply curve of orange juice will shift to the left. The supply will fall. So basically, you need to figure out which curve will shift. So it's a supply shock. Supply shock means this factor is going to affect the supply. So supply curve will shift to the left, supply will fall. And you can clearly see that when supply falls, price of orange juice will rise, quantity of orange juice will fall. So if you can read the statement, when a cold snap hits Florida, price of orange juice rises in the supermarkets throughout the country. You can clearly see price of orange juice is rising. Now, how will you explain this in the exam? So you need to explain it in your own words. You don't need to learn up anything. How will you explain? I'm telling you the method. So in the above diagram, quantity of orange juice is measured on the x-axis, price is measured on the y-axis. Okay, we can say that D is the initial demand curve and S is the initial supply curve. Initially, the equilibrium is at point E0. P0 is the equilibrium price. Q0 is the equilibrium quantity. When a cold snap hits Florida, supply of orange juice falls and supply curve shifts to the left from S to S1 while the demand curve remains the same. As a result, equilibrium price increases from P0 to P1 and equilibrium quantity falls from Q0 to Q1. This causes the equilibrium to move from E0 to E1. As a result, when a cold snap hits Florida, we can clearly observe that the price of orange juice in the supermarkets is rising. This will be your explanation. Now, like I said, you don't need to mug up. You need to explain it in your own words. How will you explain it? First, you will say, this is measured on the x-axis, that is measured on the y-axis. This is the initial demand curve, this is the initial supply curve. This is the initial equilibrium, this is the initial equilibrium price, initial equilibrium quantity. Now, whatever change has happened when a cold snap hits Florida, okay, then in that case, supply curve will shift to the left, equilibrium price will rise, equilibrium quantity will fall, equilibrium will shift from E0 to E1, end of story. But in the exam, if you just draw the diagram, but if you don't give an explanation, marks will be cut. You also need to give a proper explanation in paragraph form. Okay. So I am not writing the explanation because students can write it in their own words. Okay. Point B. Then,
Sir,
yeah. Yeah. Anyone has a doubt, please ask.
sir, in first case or in A part, can we say that shortage will occur as demand remains constant and supply decreases?
uh, we are not talking, yeah, exactly, not shortage actually. In this case, if you look at the same price, yeah, shortage will happen at the same price P0. This is my new supply, but this is my demand. This is nothing but the shortage. It will create competition among the buyers. They will start bidding up the price. As a result, equilibrium will move from E0 to E1. You can also write this in your explanation. At the same price P0, demand will exceed supply. This will cause a shortage. Shortage will create competition among the buyers. They will start bidding up the price. When price rises, demand falls along the same demand curve. Supply rises along the new supply curve till you reach the new equilibrium E1. You can write this also in your explanation. Okay. Now moving on to the second point, when the weather turns warm in New England every summer, price of hotel rooms in the Caribbean resort plummets. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about which market are we talking about. We are talking about hotel rooms. So x-axis, y-axis. On the x-axis, what do we have? On the x-axis, we have quantity of hotel rooms. And on the y-axis, we have price of hotel rooms. Again in dollars. Okay. Our initial demand curve, initial supply curve. Okay. This is our initial equilibrium. E0, P0, Q0. Initial demand curve D0, initial supply curve S0. Here also I can take 0, D0, S0. Okay. Now let's read the question. When the weather turns warm in New England every summer, price of hotel rooms in the Caribbean resort plummets. Okay, so all of us know that when the weather turns warm, uh, people prefer to stay inside in hotel rooms. Okay, so what will happen? Now the demand for hotel rooms is going to go up. Nothing is happening to supply now. When the weather turns warmer, okay, especially in the Caribbean resorts, all of you know Caribbean, the Caribbean country is it's a tropical country, so you have good summers there. So people prefer to go out in the evening during in the beaches during the evening, but during the afternoon and during the morning, it's the weather is hot, so people prefer to stay inside. Okay, so when I say that the price of hotel room in Caribbean resort plummets means increases. Why is it increasing? Because the demand for hotel rooms is increasing. When the weather is hot, people demand more hotel rooms which have AC facilities, air conditioned facilities. Okay, So what will happen? At the same price, this is my demand, this is my supply, excess demand, competition among the buyers, they start bidding up the price. Yeah, ask your doubt.
So plummet means to fall suddenly from a high level.
Right,
Uh,
sir.
1 minute. How come it is when the weather turns warm in New England every summer,
और
price of,
इंग्लैंड और कैरिबियन में डिफरेंस है ना?
yeah, there
So
is.
it's like in Caribbean people yearn for warm weather. So जब वहाँ ठंड पड़ती है इंग्लैंड में तब वो कैरिबियन में सप्लाई बढ़ जाती है बिकॉज डिमांड बढ़ जाती है वार्म होटल रूम्स की. बट जब इंग्लैंड में वार्म हो जाता है तो so there is less demand for Caribbean in hotel rooms. Plummet means to go down. तो प्राइस डाउन होगी क्योंकि डिमांड का लेफ्टवर्ड शिफ्ट
Yeah,
मांगेगा.
I think it's the same. Yeah, I think it's the reverse. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Let me draw the fresh diagram. Yeah, it's just the reverse because England and Caribbean, these are two obviously they are located at different geographical locations. So in that particular case, yes, please correct yourself. Uh, in this case, our demand curve, in this case, the demand curve will shift to the left. Yes, because when the weather will turn warm in England, people would demand less of hotel rooms in Caribbean resorts. So quantity of hotel rooms quantity of hotel rooms and price of hotel rooms. So I'm correcting the B part once again. Let's read the question once again so that everyone is clear, because you can see these questions you have to read properly. And second thing is you should be aware about the geographical locations also. Like sometimes you tend to forget that where New England lies and where Caribbean lies, so you should be familiar with the places also. Okay, so when the weather is turning warm in New England every summer, price of hotel rooms in the Caribbean resort plummets. Okay, so that means when the weather turns warm in New England, people would prefer to stay more there. So as a result, their demand for hotel rooms in Caribbean resorts will fall. So this is going to cause the demand curve to shift to the left. Okay, so now this becomes our demand curve is going to shift to the left. Our equilibrium will shift from E0 to E1. Our quantity and price both are falling. Actually, surge means to rise, but plummet means to fall. So I think I took it the reverse. When I say it surges, it means it rises. When we say it plummets, it means it falls. Okay, so again, you should be very good with vocabulary also, because a lot of terms here used are, if you are good with the vocabulary about rising and falling, again you will be able to understand, because you see mostly these lines come up in newspapers in articles, so you should be familiar with the language of it as well. So guys, you can now write the explanation yourself. Again, on the x-axis we measured this, on the y-axis we measured this: initial demand, initial supply, initial equilibrium price and quantity. When weather turns warm in New England, demand for hotel rooms in Caribbean resorts will fall. As a result, the demand curve will shift to the left. This will cause the price of hotel rooms in Caribbean resorts to fall and the quantity of hotel rooms to fall. As a result, equilibrium moves from point E0 to point E1. Okay?
Sir,
Yeah, ask your doubt.
sir, in this case only, this shows that there is direct relation between demand and price, because when the demand for hotel rooms decreases, then the
Okay,
price also decreases.
I understood your query. Let me write a line for this. So guys, you need to understand something. When price rises, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rises. All of you know this, right? But you can write, when demand rises, price will rise, and when demand falls, price will fall. So when we do the law of demand, we are looking at when price changes, what will be the impact on demand, and that relationship is inverse. But when I talk about demand first, when demand goes up, price will go up. When demand falls, price will fall. So you need to understand which factor is the causation and which factor is the effect. When price is the causation and demand is the effect, relationship is inverse. When demand is the causation and price is the effect, the relationship is direct. I hope I was clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now guys, let's look at question 1, part C. Question 1, part C. When a war breaks out in the Middle East, price of gasoline rises and price of used catalytic falls. So basically, guys, in this case, we'll be having two diagrams. One will be the market for gasoline. One will be the market for gasoline. So quantity of gasoline, x-axis, and price of gasoline on the y-axis. And we have another diagram. This is quantity of used catalytic cars. Okay. And on the y-axis, we have the price of used catalytic cars in dollars. Okay. So I can draw the initial demand and supply curves in both the cases. These are the initial demand and supply curves. We can mark the initial equilibrium price and quantity in both the diagrams. Okay, so initial price, quantity combinations. Okay, now when a war breaks out in the Middle East, now obviously war has no impact on demand. War always has an impact on supply. So when a war breaks out in the Middle East, obviously Middle East countries are the countries which are major producers of crude oil, okay, which is used for gasoline only. Okay, so when a war breaks out in the Middle East, supply falls. So I can say supply of gasoline will fall. Okay, when a war breaks out in the Middle East, supply of gasoline is going to fall. This in turn will cause the price of gasoline to rise. This in turn will cause the price of gasoline to rise. Okay, now all of us know gasoline is used in Cadillac cars. They are used in Cadillac cars. So guys, what we can say that Cadillac cars and gasoline are complements. All of us know they are complements because gasoline is used in Cadillac cars. So when the quantity, when the price of gasoline has gone up, people will reduce their demand for Cadillac cars. So demand curve will shift to the left. I again repeat, gasoline and Cadillac cars are complements. So when when the price of gasoline goes up, demand for Cadillac cars falls. Demand curve shifts to the left. As a result, price of used Cadillac cars falls. Quantity of used Cadillac cars also falls. So you can see our statement is satisfying in both the diagrams. When a war breaks out in the Middle East, price of gasoline goes up and price of used Cadillac falls. So guys, again, I expect you to write the explanation on your own. You can label this as diagram A, diagram 1 in the exam. You can label this as diagram 2 in the exam. You will first write an explanation for diagram 1. Then you will write an explanation for diagram 2. Then you will link diagram 1 to diagram 2 by saying that gasoline and catalytic cars are complements. So anyone who has a doubt in question 1 part C, you can unmute your mic and ask. Okay, now let's look at question 2. So now I am reading question 2 for all the students. An increase in demand for notebooks raises the quantity of notebooks demanded but not the quantity supplied. True or false? So let's solve this. We have quantity of notebooks and we have the price of notebooks, demand, initial demand, initial supply, equilibrium, price and quantity. Now an increase in the demand for notebooks. An increase in the demand for notebooks means the demand curve is shifting to the right. Now guys, you should be able to understand the statement very carefully. If they would have told you an increase in quantity demanded of notebooks, that would have meant movement along the same demand curve. But they have written an increase in demand. Increase in demand means demand curve itself is shifting. But increase in quantity demanded means movement along the same demand. So clearly it's a shift of the demand curve because the question says increase in demand, not quantity demanded. So an increase in demand for notebooks raises the quantity of notebooks demanded, okay, but not the quantity supplied. Is it true or is it false? So you can clearly see this statement is false. Why? Because when demand for notebooks go up, now guys, at the same price, this is my demand, this is my supply. What is this? Excess demand. It will create competition among the buyers. They will start bidding up the price. When price rises, demand falls along the same along the new demand curve. Supply rises along the old supply curve till we reach the new equilibrium E1. That means if you look at the statement which was given to us in the question was telling us what? The question was telling us an increase in demand for notebooks raises the quantity of notebooks demanded, but not the quantity supplied. It's false. You can clearly see quantity supplied is also going up. Let me tell you one thing, supply is not going up. Quantity supplied is going up along the same supply curve. Because of an increase in demand, quantity supplied is going up. But the supply curve is the same. So that means in question 2, the answer for this is false. And then you will explain the diagram, just as you know how to explain. Any
Excuse
doubt?
me, sir.
Yeah, ask your doubt.
So, if the question would have been there's an increase in quantity supplied, then what would be the answer?
True. Then the answer would have been true. Okay. Okay, let's now look at question 3. consider the market for eggs. Okay, consider the impact of the following on price and quantity of eggs. So let's look at part A. We need to look at the impact on the market for eggs. Okay, so let's look at these cases. Price of grain that is fed to the hens fall. Okay, so let us see what will be the impact on the market for eggs. So quantity of eggs on the horizontal axis, price in dollars on the vertical axis. Initial demand, initial supply, now guys, what will be the impact when the price of grain that is fed to hens fall? So basically hens produce eggs. Okay, so when the price of grain which is fed to hens fall, okay, the hens will be fed, more grains will be fed to hens. Okay, it's like saying price of input has fallen. Price of grain that is fed to hens fall indirectly means price of an input falls. And when price of an input falls, will anything happen to demand? No. What will happen to supply? Supply will shift to the right from S0 to S1. As a result, price of eggs will fall and quantity of eggs in the market will go up.
So,
Ask your doubt.
so can we say that there is increase in supply and not increase in quantity supplied, or there is the supply curve shifts rightward and there's no movement along supply curve because the
You don't
price
need
of
to, yeah,
grains.
I got your explanation. See, every time you don't need to tell the examiner about increase in supply and increase in quantity supplied. That was required only in the second question of the assignment, which was particularly questioning you about movement along the curve and shift of the curve. But in every question, you don't need to tell the examiner about this. You will just write that quantity of eggs is measured on the x-axis, price is measured on the y-axis, D0 is the initial demand curve, S0 is the initial supply curve, E0 is the initial equilibrium, P0 is the initial price, Q0 is the initial equilibrium quantity. When price of grain that is fed to hens fall, okay, more grains will be fed to hens. As a result, the production of eggs will go up and the supply curve of eggs will shift to the right from S0 to S1. As a result, the equilibrium moves from E0 to E1. The equilibrium price of eggs falls from P0 to P1 and equilibrium quantity of eggs rises from Q0 to Q1. That is it. Every time you
Sir,
don't need to explain movement will happen or shift will happen. Yes. Ask your doubt.
sir, is there any type of excess supply or excess demand in this case?
Yeah, there is. You can clearly see at the same price P0, how much is my supply? This is my supply. How much is my demand? This is my demand. So you can make this diagram. You can say that this part is nothing but excess supply. It will create competition among the producers. They start bidding down the price. Price will fall. I hope it's clear now. Okay, question 3
Yes, sir.
part B. Yeah, question 3 part B. Price of bacon falls. Now guys, all of you should know that bacon and eggs are complements. They are consumed together. Bacon and eggs are complements. Obviously, in India, we don't have bacon, but if you go to the Western economies, bacon is a very popular dish there. So bacon and eggs are complements. Okay, so let us look at the impact on the market for eggs. So quantity of eggs price, initial demand, initial supply, and then we have the equilibrium E0, P0, Q0. Okay, when price of bacon falls, now guys, what will happen when price of bacon falls? Bacon has become cheaper, and bacon and eggs are complements. They are consumed together. So if the price of bacon falls, demand for bacon goes up, and eggs are consumed with bacon, so demand of eggs will also go up. So what will happen to the demand curve of eggs? It will shift to the right. So equilibrium price of eggs is going to go up. Equilibrium quantity of eggs is also going to go up. If you want to show, you can show at the same price. This is the demand, this is the supply. So this portion is your excess demand. It will create competition among the buyers. They will start bidding up the price. Price will rise, quantity will also rise. I hope students have understood this. Okay. Then we can quickly look at case C. So erasing all this. Question 3, part C. A new study is released that indicates that eating eggs is hazardous to one's health. Okay. So this is a very simple one. Who will tell me what will happen?
Sir, demand will fall
Demand will
drastically.
decrease.
So very good. So demand curve, demand will shift to the left. So such a news will impact the psychology of the people. Okay. They will stop buying eggs. So demand curve of eggs will shift to the left. At the same price, this is the demand, this is the supply. So this is excess supply. Will create competition among the producers. They start bidding down the price. As a result, price falls from P0 to P1 and quantity also falls from Q0 to Q1. We move from E0 to E1. Clear? Now let's look at diagram D. Diagram for D. Number of egg producing farms fall. Okay. Number of egg producing farms fall. So all of you know the answer.
Yes, the supply will fall.
Very good. So this is our initial demand curve. This is our initial supply curve. Okay. This is our initial equilibrium. Initial price and quantity combinations. Okay. Now what will happen in this case? Number of egg producing farms fall. So supply falls. Supply curve shifts to the left. Okay. Equilibrium moves from E0 to E1. Now you guys know the story, so I'm not discussing it. You can write the whole explanation in the exam. Okay. And then guys, within this, the last part E, question 3, part E. This weekend is Easter holiday. So what do you think will happen if you come to know that you have an Easter holiday coming up? You
Sir,
all
demand
should.
will rise.
Very good, because eggs are not only used for consumption. If you look at the Easter, eggs are also used for decoration purposes. Easter holidays, in the Easter weekend, eggs are used for decoration purposes. So you will not only demand eggs for consumption, now you'll also demand them for decoration purposes. So in that particular case, our demand curve for eggs is going to shift to the right. Equilibrium moves from E0 to E1. Quantity of eggs rises from Q0 to Q1. Price rises from P0 to P1. Okay. So guys, this is where I stop in this lecture. Okay, homework for all students. Assignment. Please do question 4 and question 5. The remaining questions I will be discussing, but homework for all of you, question 4 and 5. Demand and supply concept. So I hope all students have enjoyed this lecture. Any doubts you have regarding this lecture, you can unmute your mic and ask, or call up or mail me your doubts at divineschoolofeconomics@gmail.com.